Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just a bit of technical issues. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Okay,
yeah, it's all right. There we go.
Okay, we'll try. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Epping Forest Council's Local Liaison Committee meeting. Today is the 21st of September 2023. My name's Councillor Darshan Sangha, and I'd like to start off by welcoming all of the members here tonight. But item number 1 is webcasting, so I shall read out the statement. I'd like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet or filmed and will be capable of repeated viewing or other such use by third parties. Therefore, by participating in the virtual meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of these images and sound recordings for webcasting and or training purposes. If members of the public do not wish to have their image captured, then they should ensure their video setting throughout the virtual meeting is turned off and set to the audio only. In the event of technical difficulties, if technical difficulties interrupt the virtual meeting, that cannot be overcome, then the meeting will be adjourned. But I actually think that's for virtual meetings, but I think we're in person here today, so if any member does not wish to be part of this recording, they may want to change their seats. So I think that applies. So this is probably good advice. Okay, item number 2 is appointment of chairman and vice chairman. So over to you, Mr. Woodall. Is that?
Yeah, Gary.
Yeah, Mr. Woodall.
Yes, Chairman, it is customary for the Chairman of the District Councillor to chair this committee and for the Chairman of the Epping Forest branch of the Essex Association of Local Councils to be the Vice Chairman. As you can see, we have you sitting in the hot seat and Town Councillor Burgess sitting next to you. So if the committee are happy.
Okay, nodding is a sign of universal acknowledgement. Yes, that's good. Thank you. Item number 3, Mr. Woodall, please, is apologies for absence.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. District councillors, we have apologies for Councillor Bassett. County councillors, we have apologies from County councillors Scott, Vance, Whitbread and Whitbread. I have had apologies from a number of the town and parish councils. I will list them fully in the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Woodall. Members, do you have anything else? Any other apologies off the floor? None. Thank you. Okay, in which case we'll move on to item number... Sorry, Mr. Woodall.
Sorry, Chairman. Can I just remind any local councillors, if they haven't filled in the attendance sheet that's floating around, please could they do so? Because obviously I don't know a number of you, so it'll make sure you're listed in the minutes as being in attendance. Thank you. You don't have to sign, just write your name in. So.
Thank you, Mr. Woodall. Minutes of the previous meeting is indexed at pages 5 to 18. So if everybody's okay with those, we can sign those off. They were the minutes for the 28th of March 2023 meeting, if there's any matters arising from that. Lovely. Agreed? Is that agreed, members? Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so we move on to item number 5, which is the Epping Forest Local Highways panel, the new structure. I'd like to invite our Cabinet member, Councillor Sam Kane, to take us through, who's also the chairman of the Epping Forest Local Highways panel, through this agenda. So, Councillor Kane, if you'd like to take this, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And for those that don't know me, I'm both district and council councillor.
Sorry, Councillor Kane, would you like to stand, please?
Stand? Why would I like to stand?
If you'd like to speak.
No, I'm more than happy to sit where I am. I've got notes to read, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Thank you. So, yeah, my name's Sam Kane. I'm a district councillor. I'm a county councillor. I'm the current chair of the Local Highways panel and also the vice chair of the North Essex Parking Partnership. This year, the relevant portfolio holder at county has asked each of the local highways panels to look at their makeup and determine if they're happy with the way that the membership is there. There was a motion to look at the way the towns and parishes were represented, and we felt that a single member or a single town or parish councillor always being in the hot seat, as it were, at the local highways panel, wasn't really spreading the load enough across the district so that all towns and parishes were represented. So we felt it was probably best to change the way that it worked so that all representations from town or parish should come through the county councillor, and if a member of town or parish wanted to be represented or to make a presentation to the panel in person, then they could do that by invitation. That way we felt each of the towns and parishes would be fairly represented on the highways panel as and when issues came up. So that was the first change that came across. Second change in local highways panel financing, the normal allocation of funds has been split up a little bit this year, and there's been a dedicated pot of money has been put aside at highways to look at specific footway issues, and then the pot of money has been put away to look at specific road surface conditions. So that's to try and get a head start on some of the many problems that are in highways. We had a particularly bad winter, as you well know, and potholes sprung up everywhere. So the net result is that this year's pot of money to be used on the local highways panel schemes is reduced for this year because I'll give them their correct names, the additional footway scheme has taken up 174,000. The additional footway minor works has taken up 174,000, and we have funding for this year of £174,800 to cover our schemes. To put that in context, we have already on our schemes awaiting funding list approximately £700,000 worth of work. So as you can see, we are heavily underfunded for the amount of schemes that we've got to go through. So when the panel sits and looks at where we're going to spend our money this year, we have to look at that with a very critical eye to see where we can benefit the most residents in as short a time as possible, and try and clear through some of this list. Which brings me on to the next change in the highways panel operation, and that is the Councillor Lee Scott, the portfolio holder at Essex, has set up what's the best way of describing it, a Super League highways panel, which has just the chairman of each of the various highways panels across the district, across the county. Someone rolling over in their grave. Yeah, so if you like, it's a panel of chairmen, and each of the highways panels has the option to say, look, we've had this scheme on our list for 3 years now, it's not going anywhere, we can't come to a decision, or we just haven't got the funds to do it. We're going to push it upstairs and give the chair of chairs the final word on the scheme. Now that could push the scheme through because he has his own pot of money put aside for doing that. It could also kill the scheme entirely. So we have to choose what we push upstairs carefully, in the knowledge that it might get done if it's a really valid scheme, but we just can't afford it, or it might be the death of that scheme, because we have got schemes on here that have been sitting around for 3, 4, some of them even 5 years. So that's the basics of the change. Happy to take any questions on that.
Thank you, Councillor Kane. Any questions from the floor? Great. Silence. Oh. Sorry. I don't know the names.
No, it's all right. Sorry, it's Adriana Jones. I'm the clerk to Stamford Rivers. We understand what you've said. We had a scheme that was on the list for 7 years. And thankfully, a few months ago, it was implemented, which we're very grateful for. But as a rural area, we are less likely to get schemes that go through because we have less people. So can you clarify, or is there somewhere we can go where we understand what the priority is and how the panel decides which ones go through? Because that's just not clear at the moment.
It is a balanced decision whenever we look at these things. And generally speaking, for myself and I think for other panel members, those schemes that are in relation to safety issues, as many are, would have a priority over, let's say, a public right-of-way renewal scheme, for example. So we have to look about what's on offer. We have to look at how we can try and reach some kind of equality across the district, because that's also important, because as you say, rural areas may well fall foul of the fact. And it's also true to say that within the urban areas, there are going to be more problems. So there's likely to be more applications within the urban areas than there are in the rural schemes. My best advice would be to lean on your county councillor and try and express that through and make sure that they have a nice loud voice at the panel. Because I appreciate it could be difficult for rural schemes which are, as you say, probably benefiting 40, 50 people as opposed to the 400 or 500 who are affected by an urban scheme that covers just one road, for example. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Lee.
Chairman, we used to do some match funding from district. I know with COVID and everything, money's short, but is there any chance, do we still do anything like that?
Certainly not this year, extremely unlikely next year. I'm not saying it's never going to happen, but it's not going to happen in the next couple of years.
Thank you. I will allow you to come back.
Thank you. It's just actually another question, if that's okay.
Yes,
Yep.
it's a quick one.
So as an officer of a council, we're used to dealing with other officers. What we found extremely frustrating is the ability to have that conversation and understand the current situation of schemes. Is that possible going forward, that as officers we can talk with the officers at county, or again do we have to go via our county councillors who are already very overworked and under pressure?
It's an interesting observation, and it's one I don't have a straight answer to at the moment, but I will happily find out and make sure it's included in the minutes.
Thank you very much. Councillor McIver?
I was going to say on that particular note, I think county council is always the best first port of call, but of course, as and when you build relationships with your county councillor and you're in email threads, there are officer contact details there, and I don't think there's anything to suggest you can't make inquiries to an officer. It'd just be some advice for all members.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay, so if there's no other... Councillor Wixley?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I've got a sort of foot in both camps here because I'm on the local highways panel, but also attended the meeting of the parish, town and parish councils. What I'm not clear on, which might be helpful, if the town and parish councils had the minutes and the agendas of the local highways panel meeting. I don't know if these are readily available on the Essex County Council website. I haven't delved into that, but I don't know if Councillor Kane could, Sam Kane could advise on this.
Councillor Kane, I think you might be able to clarify that. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly, as far as I'm aware, the minutes and the agendas are all published on the Highways website.
Thank you. I think it's very useful and very helpful as well, so it stops repetition. If there's no further questions, sorry, we have a...
Chairman, if it helps, I'll try and dig out the URL for where they are on the Essex County Council website and put them in the minutes, because that way you'll have a link then that you can just click on and go in. I can't hand on heart say they get updated particularly quickly, but you should be able to. So we've just had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, wasn't it? So you'll certainly be able to see the agenda and the minutes from the July meeting. So.
Thank you, Mr. Woodall. Very helpful. Move on to item number 6, the Essex County Council Cabinet Member for Highways, Maintenance and Sustainable Transport, Councillor Lee Scott. Of course, you've probably noticed Councillor Scott isn't here today at this meeting, and was to provide an update on his plans for the future of highways in the county and to address any areas of general concern that the parish and town councils may have, including the following items outstanding from the minutes of the committee held on the 5th of October. We've got a response from from Councillor Lee Scott's executive assistant, who says she will be forwarding a report. But Councillor Sam Kane, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I've had an email in this afternoon from
Good.
Lewis Whitrod, who's the Cabinet Assistant for Lee Scott. Lee's obviously interrupted his holiday long enough to draft a couple of paragraphs for us, and I'm happy to take any questions I can on his behalf, and those that I don't know the answer to, will of course make sure you get an answer to in the minutes.
Okay. Are there any questions that you'd like?
Shall I just go run through his responses first?
I think that might be a good idea,
Yeah, okay.
rather than asking.
All right, no problem. So question 1 on the agenda was the efficacy of the local highways panel and the adequacy of budgets provided to them. The response was given as, where there is a solution, LHP will provide one. However, it's not always practical, or in some cases legal, to commit to every proposal. The scheme list for each panel is generally in excess of the amount of funding. Therefore, schemes are prioritised based upon the returned benefit. It's pretty much what I was saying earlier. The second question was the prime remit of the local highways panel, and he's just referred you to the essexhighways.org/local-highways-panels for a description of their remit. There are copious documentation on there with the terms of reference. It covers what the local highways panel is there for, what issues it can address, etc. So yeah, all of the answers to that are on the website. Again, I'll make sure that Gary includes those in the minutes. Third question was what, if any, options are available for introducing traffic calming measures on rural country roads? To which the reply reads, traffic calming measures are subject to the classification of the highways network. Where sections of the network allow traffic calming measures to be installed, they are dependent upon the constraints at the intended location. Rural roads are often subject to national speed limits, making them inappropriate locations. Where rural roads pass through villages, which are subject to 30 miles an hour, there are no constraints, then traffic calming measures can be considered as a scheme much as any other would be. The fourth point on the agenda was the contract with Ringway Jacobs. How long has this been in place, and when is it due renewal, and whether or not they offer value for taxpayers' money? Good question. Ringway Jacobs' contract runs until April 27. An exercise is already underway within ECC to determine the contract type that will follow on from the Ringway Jacobs contract. So it will not be renewed as such. It is difficult to respond to the value for money part of the question. However, when the contract was originally bid, it was competitively tendered, so it is expected to provide value for money. In addition, over the last couple of years, Ringway Jacobs has been working closely with ECC to successfully identify significant savings and efficiencies, and this will continue until the end of the contract. So sort of reading between the lines there, it looks as though ECC Highways are looking to find an alternate way of providing the services that Ringway Jacobs currently do, but Ringway Jacobs are under contracts to 27. That's what I've got.
Thank you, Councillor Kane. From one Kane to another, Councillor Helen Kane.
I am not surprised, to be honest with you, that every project that we actually requested, it came, even a zebra crossing or whatever, it came to such a lot of money. So I'm not surprised that Essex are looking for alternative contractor. It's just, we think that it is very, very high, what are they charging?
Councillor Kane.
In fairness, it can be very surprising. There is a document on the website which is worth looking at, which is a rough guide to costs, and some of them are quite eye-watering. But when you look behind the scenes, there is a lot going on in terms of clarification and checking. All of the underground conduits have to be checked. We have to have provision of power. There's a whole bunch of legal things that have to go through. There is a lot of stuff that isn't effectively putting the traffic lights up and painting the road. But whether that justifies some of the, as I say, quite eye-watering price tags, that's not for me to say.
Thank you. Very helpful. Councillor Janet Whitehouse.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't know which way to look. When Councillor Lee was last here at this meeting, I asked him about road signs which say road ahead closed. And it's not the road ahead, it's the road to the right or the left, and the confusion and unnecessary disruption that causes. And he said that more informative signs were in production. I got the impression it wasn't going to be that long before we got them, but they haven't yet appeared. I just wondered if someone could ask what progress is being made on the provision of these signs, because it would be really helpful if it said right or left on the road ahead closed sign.
Thank you, Councillor White. Councillor Sam Kane, you're going to be busy tonight.
I'm just going to make a quick comment. In as much as we had the road closed immediately outside our front door just yesterday, and there are no indicative signs saying where it's closed or anything, so it hasn't happened yet, so it's certainly worth re-asking the question.
Should I say work in progress? So perhaps if we could take that back. Thank you. Any other further questions? Otherwise, we move on to... I'm sure Councillor Scott will be here at the next meeting on the 1st of February next year, 2024, and maybe have a more comprehensive response to some of the questions and queries that we've got. But we shall move on to item number 7, which is issues raised by local councils. To discuss the matters that are listed in your sheets, I'm not going to read out the whole the statements there, but if I could ask and invite our officer Nigel Richardson to perhaps go through some of the points, please, from A to D.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. So the first item is, even though it was discussed at the last meeting, was the printing of the local plan. So I'm more or less going to reiterate what I said last time round. Well, I'll actually start off by saying, yes, you can print the hard copy. You can do a hard copy of the local plan, but it won't be us who will be doing it. You can do that yourself. The plan's there on the website. To give you an idea how much that will cost you, it's roughly about £120. They're two big hefty documents that make up the local plan. There's a part 1 and a part 2. So yes, if you want to print a hard copy, that's fine. But we as a council are not going to do that. I've got no budget to do that. And I've been backed up by portfolio holder for finance and portfolio holder for place as well. And to be absolutely honest, we're not printing documents anymore. Even our members will vouch for that. They're not getting hard copies of agendas. So it flies in the face of what we're trying to achieve as part of the Climate Change Action Plan. We're aiming to be carbon neutral by 2030. So I'm afraid the answer to that is no. And I'm afraid if you want a hard copy, you arrange for that to be printed yourselves. And like I say, roughly, when we printed them last March for the libraries, it was about £120 it worked out. I'm happy to take any questions on that.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. I haven't got names here, so can I go to the lady there, because I think you've spoken, and then we'll come back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. I wonder, where do we actually go to buy one of these things then, or these two things?
Sorry, are we referring to the plan, the actual book?
Sorry, you don't buy them. You print it off. You can't buy a copy. There's no hard copies to buy. So you'd have to print it. You'd have to arrange to get somebody to print it off for you. I mean, the other option, of course, is to go look on the website and navigate around the local plan. You can go to the index page. You just click on each chapter, and it'll take you straight to it.
So where can I go to get it printed for me? Because I can't...
That's for you to arrange yourself. We can't print that for you.
I'm not asking you to print it for me. I'm asking you, who is the publisher, or... I can't print that probably on my photocopier. It probably couldn't cope.
Can I just... Sorry, Mr. Richardson. So what Mr. Richardson is saying is that the link is available for printing on the website. So you can hit that and they'll print to any printer. Now, your parish or town council would have a system where they could print that off if they wanted to, but... That's not true. Sorry, if you don't have that facility, then you need to perhaps get it printed elsewhere.
That's the answer.
But can I also say, we all subscribed to climate emergency for this district to be carbon neutral by 2030. And I think we're doing everything we can. And I certainly will concur what Mr. Richardson said as district councillors. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us, 6 of us here tonight. We don't get any printed copies at all. We get our iPads. So we're doing our bit. Hopefully town and parish council will do their bit. So this lady, then Councillor Whitehouse.
Yeah, so just two issues. The first is, if you were to look at the percentage of £120 in terms of finances for a small parish council who perhaps doesn't have a precept over £10,000, that cost is significant. And if you look at the district council's probably massive printing contract that it has, it probably doesn't cost you £120 to print it. I imagine it's a lot cheaper. So when you look at it that way, it's significant for a small parish to print that. And the cost would be much lower if the district printed it, if it printed it in-house. Secondly, to a certain degree, it's ageist because there is a large population of elderly people that either cannot access online or have trouble accessing and understanding online large documents. I'm very computer literate, but there are parts of the local plan that I physically need to have a look at and have a copy of it. So it's concerning that there isn't a greater ability to have and get access to a hard copy.
I think I sympathise with what you say, and I do agree with you. There are people that of that age that possibly haven't got access to the facilities. However, I think our position at the district has been very clear. Mr. Richardson, did you want to add to that? I mean, I've already said.
Yeah, but the only thing I was going to say is the lady was asking about where do you get it printed from, just to give you an idea where we went, because we didn't print it in-house. So when we printed copies to give to the libraries, we went to Jump, Print and Design. Jump, Print and Design.
Perhaps
if you want to, we could perhaps put that in the minutes, but I can look into that as well.
Okay. Councillor Janet Whitehouse and then Councillor McIver.
Yes, I'm glad to hear Mr. Richardson's recent comment about where people can get it printed, because I do think the relationships between the district and the parish are going to be really damaged unless we're a bit more helpful. I mean, many of our parish councils are very small. They don't have offices. People are, working from home. We expect them on perhaps rather old-fashioned printers to print this complex document. And I would have thought that, we might be able to print it and some parishes got together and paid for it, but it is helpful that you've now given a reference as to where people would go. So that is a step in the right direction. But I do think we need to be sympathetic to how small some of these parish councils are, not like Chigwell. Some are really small. And, just give them a helping hand. It's a really important level of democracy.
Councillor Whitehouse, thank you for that. Are you saying that you'd like for the district to consider printing it and then charging the town and parish councils for it?
That was an option, yes. That you wouldn't do it just offhand, but I think now that Mr. Richardson has told people where to go, that perhaps changes it. That was what I was going to say originally, but now that he has said where to go,
thank you.
I think that is
I think Mr. Richardson's given one, and there's many, many more out there. Yeah, because a lot of our parish and town councillors are very knowledgeable, intelligent people. I'm sure they'll do their homework and get the best possible price for the residents. Councillor McIver.
Thank you, Chairman. I think just to avoid any disenfranchisement, which is my concern here, and representing a number of very rural parishes, for example, Abbas, Beauchamp and Berners Roading, I think the population of 140 people, they do not have the resources to print such a document and the cost would be significant. However, I think if a number of those parishes in that certain vicinity could potentially get together and have a printed copy between them, that could work. So I think to be helpful to our parishes, perhaps we could just provide the council's official advice and suggestion, including perhaps recommending a company with green credentials that could be used. I'm very just conscious also that I don't see the difference between it being printed here or there, what difference that makes to the environment. It's still being printed, there's still a tree suffering somewhere. But I do appreciate our stance on that and why we're doing it. But I think perhaps it could come across in a slightly more helpful communication, perhaps from the portfolio holder.
I think that's a very good suggestion. Perhaps we could consider that. Come back with some...
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to print it off. I'll tell you what I'll do, if I can find one. There may be one hard copy, and if I can find that, I'm willing to give it to that rural area. But as you say, the others, I'm afraid you have to find their own ways of printing it. But I'll see if I can dig one out.
Mr. Richardson, I think what Councillor Mackay was saying is, could we sort of perhaps get somebody that's accredited and just suggest that for the parish and town councils to use? And if they all went to the same printer, perhaps do some sort of a deal. If I'm right in thinking, is that right?
Well, I'm not sure that's our role, to be absolutely honest. I mean, I'm a bit worried that if I've mentioned one printer's name, what I don't want is other printers saying, well, Nigel Richardson's putting business in their direction.
I can see that now, yeah.
You know, Google it and find out yourself. All I've given you is the name of the person we went to and got to print.
Councillor Kane, Helen?
Mr. Widgley first.
Councillor Wixley, then Councillor Kane. Is that okay? It was on this subject, though. Okay. Is it on this? Right. Councillor Helen Kane, please.
First of all, it is Council's policy not to print. So that is what we have to understand. The other thing is, I take it that there were copies printed and given to libraries, right? So there is a centre that somebody can go and have a look. I understand that, but I'm sure that the parish councils, even the smallest ones, they can actually ring around and find suitable, the best price, and have one of them printed. I think, I'm sorry to say, if that is the policy, this is the policy, and we have to adapt and respect that. Thank you.
That's fine. Councillor Wixley, is it on the same point?
Yeah, this probably may not be very helpful, but there was a company in Loughton until very recently, and Nigel, as a Loughton resident, may know what I'm talking about, called Repro, who could print everything off. Unfortunately, I've seen a sign in the window saying that the proprietors have retired, but all the equipment is still there. So should that company reopen, I'd be quite happy to pass that information on as another possibility and a company to get a quote from. But at the moment, it's what I'm saying is probably not that helpful.
I think Mr. Richardson's point about suggesting names forward, we could be entering into some dark areas, so I would refrain from possibly recommending any print companies here. But if you want to share that, it's fine.
Lady there, Northfield Bassett.
From Councillor from Northfield Bassett.
Hi. If Nigel, if you can get me a copy of it, we will print them at Northfield. We have a very big copier, and we will print them. We can do them. It will probably cost us £30 to get that copy printed off. So we can do that there. If you can get me a copy.
There you go. Okay. We found a solution already, councillors. Okay, so if there are no other questions on this, could we move on to the next? Mr. Richardson, have we dealt with B?
So, so B, I think is a bit more simpler. The request was aimed at Councillor Nigel Bedford, portfolio holder for Place. There was a request that you want an update on officers in the planning policy and the implementation team. What I was going to do, if I can make it work, I was going to share my screen. Let me see if I can bring this up. Be 1 minute. What I don't want to do is you see me. Hold on, let's see what happens.
Do you want to come back to that?
No, should be all right.
Are we going to go to,
there we go.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can read that. I'll talk you through it. First of all, ignore the colours. I couldn't get rid of the colours. There was a meaning behind it, but not for you. So I'm at the top here. And then underneath me is, this is on the left-hand side, is Nick Finney. So he's the interim team manager of what we call the implementation team. So that's like the master planning, the specialism team, almost like a major application team. We call it the implementation team. Under him, we have a couple of principal planners, which is Peter van der Zwaan and Rick Schoeneman. We've got 2 vacant principal planners, very difficult to actually recruit to planning at the moment, unfortunately. We have a senior urban designer, Krishma Shah. She's been working particularly on the Latin Priory Master Plan and the Latin Priory Design Code. Then we've got something called a SUDS and Green Infrastructure. SUDS stands for Sustainable Urban Drainage Systems, and that's Deborah Eastwood. Deborah's on maternity leave, but is just about to return. Then we've got a Landscape and Air Pollution Strategy Officer, Nikki Linehan. Nikki's actually a consultant working for us, and she's been working for us for a couple of years. We've then got a Section 106 Monitoring Officer, an interim again at the moment, which is Stephen Anyanwu. We've then got a Project Coordinator Officer, which is Emma Charlton. Stephen Lloyd-Jones is our Sustainable Transport Officer. And for some reason, I don't know why it hasn't quite come on there, but we've got the Climate Change Officer, which is Fran Edmonds. So they all sit within what we call the implementation team. And then on the other side, we have a planning policy team. So again, we've got an interim there, which is Greg Makrodekian. And then we've got a couple of vacant positions there. Principal Planning Officer, you probably remember Vicky Willis, who took the local plan through. Sadly, Vicky's left us and joined a consultancy. We've got a vacant Projects Officer post, but that's out to advert at the moment. And then under that, we have a couple of Planning Policy Officers. Matt Cranich is one of those, the other one's vacant. Then we've got an Information and Technical Officer post, which we're interviewing next week for. And then we've got a Technical and Admin Officer, which is Christine Bawara. The only other post that I've got on here, which is on the right-hand side, towards the top, is the Garden Town Liaison Lead. And sadly, Ione Braddock left yesterday. So she's gone to join London Borough of Haringey, actually working on the redevelopment of the Broadwater Farm Estate. So a big project, but a big loss, and that is out to advert as well. So that's just one portion of planning. That's the implementation and policy, and then there's the development management side, but I wasn't requested to show that. So that's your planning applications and appeals.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Is this information available on our websites by any chance?
It isn't. I could. I mean, we can get it in the minutes. Problem is, it keeps changing.
Mr. Woodall.
Sorry, Gary.
Chairman, I was going to suggest if Nigel sends me that chart, then I'll convert it into a PDF and add it to the minutes.
That'd be good. Thank you. That's great. Councillor Jeannie Lee from Stamford Rivers, and then Councillor Helen Kane.
Thank you, Chairman. I thought all planning policies came direct from the government when I've asked about things, so that's obviously not the case if we got policy people. Can that be explained to me, please?
Councillor, Mr. Richardson.
Well, all the policies derive from local government, things like the National Planning Policy Framework, but the local plan, remember the local plan's ours, so that's full of policies, and they're our policies for Epping Forest District Council. But you need a team to create those policies at that local level, and that's basically what we've got.
Thank you.
We've had that for years and years and years. That's what the local plan is. It's our policies.
Are you okay with that, Councillor Lee? Otherwise, you and I can have a conversation afterwards. It's not a problem. The councillor from Stamford Rivers.
Hi. So you mentioned a lot of interim, and you said it changes quite a lot. It's just interesting to understand why that's the case. Is it because we're so close to London, and do you just put them in post for a temporary period of time while you find an appropriate structure, or how does that work?
It's kind of a mix of all those things, actually. Funnily enough, I've just been on the Essex Planning Officer Association meeting today, and one of the subjects was, I've got a note full of them here. One of the subjects was about workforce pressures, and the local government association are looking at that at Essex level at the moment. So I've been speaking to all the Essex authorities. Why is it difficult to recruit? I think proximity to London is one reason for us, but then that's shared across the other Essex authorities. Private sector is another reason. I don't think there's enough planners coming through the system. The other issue is, so it's a case of capacity versus capabilities, if I'm being absolutely honest. The planning system's got so complicated over the last 10, 15 years. It's trying to get good qualified planners is quite a challenge. And then the other thing, of course, is salaries. You know, is about working within your budget. So the reason why we've got some interims, in all fairness, is because we have tried to recruit and we've had a poor response, but we need somebody to do that job. I'm actually looking at a planning restructure at the moment, and we're looking at budgets at this time. So I'm hoping perhaps going forward we can try and fill some of those posts, but yeah, it's a real challenge, real challenge.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Just to say that the challenge is with all local authorities at the moment, so it's not just us. So I think it's very helpful to know that.
Yeah, I think if anything, it probably helps being closer to London. Blimey, out in rural Essex, I think they really do struggle. So in some ways that does help us. We've got the tube line, obviously, and we've got reasonably good links to London. Quite a lot of our planners actually live in London and commute out if they have to come here.
Thank you. Councillor Helen Kane.
Yeah, I was going to say that this structure is actually very disappointing. To put it on a PDF, finding out that in a month's time everything is changed and names. Is it any chance that perhaps in January you could come back with some more positive ways of telling us that you actually found and replaced people and they are more permanent than this?
So thank you. I think Councillor Kane's point is, can we have that as a wish list for 2024, have a full house?
I would absolutely love to come back with all those posts filled, yes.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Sam Kane.
Just a very quick one to Nigel directly, if I may. I assume we're also looking at shared services with neighbouring boroughs.
Mr. Richardson.
Yes, I had a conversation only yesterday with a neighbouring authority. And I've got another one due early part of next week. Yes.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, we'll move on to Part C, which I think is straightforward.
Yeah, let me just bring up.
That's the EFDCs indicate they will not provide training on new planning system to parish and town councils.
Yeah, so this is split into three bits, isn't it? One is that does the new system allow a user of the site to identify which properties have been consulted on a planning application? The answer is no. However, we have raised that with our ICT and the system developers as to whether this can be made available. So we will report back on that once that's been finalised. So hopefully we can do it, but at the moment, no, we can't, unfortunately. On B, the question is, the previous system allowed a user to search for the history of a particular property using the file number. Can this be done on the new system, and can it be demonstrated how? And if it cannot, why not? So yes, it can be on the new system. there's a search function online that includes the word advanced search. So you need to go to that advanced search. That allows you a capability to do that. So you don't need to just have the application reference number. You can use the file number if you've got that, or address, and that'll bring it up. I was going to try and have a go at demonstrating this.
I was going to say, Mr. Richardson, that just to see if it works, how efficiently myself and Mr. Woodall took the opportunity to actually do a little search, and we were pleasantly surprised to see that the system does work, and it does actually, these dots start flying around and looking for the information, and it comes back. And you don't have to put too much information as well. You can put generic road name and it'll come out with all the applications that have been submitted. So it's very user-friendly.
So, Chairman, if that's all right, shall I just quickly, if this is going to work,
it works.
See if I can get this to to work. So what I would suggest you do then, go to Planning and Building Control. Might be a bit slow. And then go to Search Planning Applications. And then, yes, make sure I've done this right. Yeah, Search Planning Applications. Again. And then you have to scroll down.
Advanced.
So this is a bit, you see that word there, advanced search here. So you need to click on that. And this is a bit where it's a bit tricky because it brings you for some reason in the middle of the page, but you need to go up because as you can see under category, for some reason it goes to building control applications. So you need to click on the down arrow and go to planning applications. And then you work your way down to...
That's the old system.
Yeah, you can go to a site address then, or you can, put your details in here, even the planning portal reference if you've got that, or the file number. So once you go into that, and that'll take you through. So advanced search, and then work your way up to the top and click building control. Make sure you've got planning applications, and then you should be able to find it from there.
That's very useful.
Helen Kane.
Councillor Kane, Helen Kane.
On this, I wanted to ask...
Sorry.
Sorry, your mic, please. Yes, please.
On this subject, I would like to ask Nigel, Chairman, through you, that before we had a choice of 22 or 23. This has disappeared. This means that if an application is older, you can't find it anymore. Or we had a choice, you see, when you went. Number one question. Number two is, if you know the application number, so say EPF or whatever, and you find it and you go and you look at it, but you've got two applications to look at, when you come out, you have to really, it doesn't bring you, you have to come out completely and then go back again to put the new application. Is there a way of actually going back to, or a way of search for new application to bring you back to that little box so you can put the EPF number?
That's a valid point. I've actually noticed that. So the first, I think it's before the 1st of January 2022, and then applications after. Yes. Yeah.
I'm not an expert on this because I don't often use the council website, but we can look into it. I think you're right, though. I think you have to come out and go back in again. I don't think there is any other way of doing that, unfortunately.
No, you're right.
But I think the before and after's disappeared now, hasn't it? It's gone, hasn't it? Yeah.
Councillor Wixley?
Yeah, I got a couple of queries on this. Going back to number one, about having information on properties where where they've been consulted, that it's extremely useful to have that facility. and I was told it would be relatively easy to sort that out. I won't name the officer who told me, but from what Nigel's just said, it sounds a lot more complicated. The reason it's important is that residents may be aware that a planning application's come forward and they contact you about it, or it's in the pipeline. When the actual planning application does come forward, then I've found myself in a position where I've had to go back and check with that individual householder and say, do you know about this? Have you been consulted? It's a cumbersome way to do things. Whereas if you add the list of properties where they have been advised that planning application is going forward, then it's so much quicker and simpler. I just cannot understand why this system is less efficient than the previous one. And likewise, on item 2, I seem to recall that you could look up the name of a street, and you from that you could get planning applications going back years. I mean, wasn't any thought given to this when the system was changed? It seems to me that no thought was given to ease of use. They just went ahead and did it. You know, nobody anticipated the consequences of making these changes.
Councillor Wixley, have you actually tried to go on the system? Because I have, and it's so easy, so straightforward. You don't need a file number anymore.
Well, I think we may be talking at cross purposes, but I mean, our town clerk at Loughton Town Council is very good, and you know, I've had to speak to her about this, and she doesn't understand all this. I think she's got more of, probably she can explain some of this to me, but I'm not quite sure the issue that you're referring to. But no. I don't think we can go into it in great details now. We could be all night.
I think what would be helpful if district councillors can actually for themselves try to access that system, because I can assure you that it's straightforward. Some of the little teething problems I think Mr Richardson will probably look into.
Yeah, I think what I've just said is I've just demonstrated the advanced search. So perhaps if you and the clerk go back and use the advanced search and then let us know if that's still a problem. On the other thing, yeah, I agree with you. That's the answer I can give you at the moment. IT are looking into it and we will hopefully get that done. I don't know why it's taking so long. I don't know why it's so complicated, but it is being dealt with.
Councillor Wixley, you want to come back?
Well, this is the irony of it. I don't want to name anybody, but an officer told me it would be very simple to do that in issue 1. So yeah, it's no problem.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to come ask any further questions? Okay, so did you want to move on to, is the D still to do with?
Yeah, thank you.
And E.
Just find that.
Sorry? You haven't got the D?
No, C3.
C, isn't it?
C3, the bit about the 2-hour tutorial.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I don't think there's a need for, I don't know why 2 hour, why we need a 2-hour tutorial. I mean, what I would say is, Chairman, I've demonstrated the advanced search. Please let me know what the issues are and then we'll have a look at it. I'm not just doing a 2-hour tutorial on when we don't exactly know what we're doing a tutorial on, but I'm very happy to have a list of things and we'll look at that.
I think we need to sort of give it some time. There's teething issues, of course, but that needs to be ironed out. But if you try it a couple of times, it's so straightforward. I can't emphasise that enough. I'd like you can come back. So from Stamford Rivers.
Yeah, we've been trying it, and it is a good system, but there are a lot of elements where we are used to doing it a certain way, and we cannot do it this way. And you have clerks, officers, and councillors saying, we need help. Show us how to do it. And I think if you're just going to say, well, no, go away and just try it yourselves, that's really unhelpful. 2 hours is not a long time on Teams or Zoom to say, let's just go through it now. What are your problems? Blah, blah, blah. This is how you resolve it. It's just not difficult, and I don't see why it's such a problem.
Can I ask, in your council, do you have district councillors and parish that are dual-hatted?
No.
Okay, so I would suggest if you can get hold of your district councillors and ask them for help, I'm sure they'll help you.
He's gone. I really don't think that will work.
I think it will work. Please give it a try. He's a very good counsellor and he knows his stuff. That's what I would think the first stop is. I don't think we have the resources to do any training from what I'm hearing from Mr. Richardson. Or am I wrong? Sorry. If you could turn that off.
Sorry.
Sorry, if I could just turn that off to respond back. Mr. Richardson?
Like I say, give us a list of questions on where your issues are and we'll have a look at it and try and deal with it that way. But please, if now the advanced search, please everybody try that.
Okay. Councillor from Hyonga?
Sorry, I think, Nigel, I mean, you've known me for well over 20 years, and if parish and town councils are asking for help, I think that you do realise that they do need the help. You're talking about dual-hatted councillors. North Weald has got one dual-hatted councillor, and they're not going to come along and help us with planning. You've got the expertise here with the planning. We used to have once a year or twice a year some courses on various things, whether it's planning. This year we had some courses done by Democratic Services, which was very, very well attended. I mean, if people are asking for it, I know it's only 2 hours, but even if it's on Zoom, I think it would really help.
Mr. Richardson, did you want to come back? I know you're going to repeat the same.
We'll sort something out, but if we do the training, seriously, that is it. We'll do the training, but then it's down to you then to go and play with the system and work it out. So we'll arrange that, Chair.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Richardson. Councillor Helen Kane?
Yeah, I was just going to propose to compromise and have the best of the two. For example, the parish councils tell us, or tell Nigel, exactly what the problems are. When he's got all the problems, you know, solved, then we can have a Teams meeting to actually discuss those problems and have like a 15-minute introduction to the system, and then the rest with just the...
I think, Councillor Kane, that's a very good suggestion. I think Mr. Richardson's nodding as well. I think the way forward would be if the parish and town councils can put forward a list, a wish list of what they would like to see solved, come back with a date, do a Teams meeting, recorded Teams meeting, so that you can revisit again.
Yep.
Is that the way forward? Can we have an agreement to that? Otherwise, we can go... Okay. If it's something new you'd like to add, because otherwise... I'd like to move on to the next item. It's not... Okay. Last question, please.
We issued that list to Andrew Marks just under a year ago, and we've not had a response.
Well, he's left now, so send it to me.
Not only that, our system's changed as well. So you would have been taught on the old system, so this is the new system. Yeah, so we're all in agreement with that. Okay, great. Mr. Richardson, did you want to continue with D and E?
I think next one's 4, isn't it? The planning list. There was a query about the planning list being distributed on Friday afternoon. However, there's occasions when it doesn't take place, and that's, I mean, you're quite right, because it's usually one person who does this, and if she's on holiday. This is more of what we call a business support function rather than planning, but we're aware of those issues, and I think what we'll do is we'll look at the resilience around that. What we're intending to do is perhaps double up that post with a bit of a reorganisation, so that if one member of staff is absent, then the other person can still make sure that goes out. So,
thank you.
Yeah, find a way forward for that.
Can we take the next one, and if there's any questions, E?
There wasn't E.
Yeah, the branch managers members would like to invite the new chairman. Sorry, that's not you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Richardson.
Thank you.
I think. I can answer that. Yes, Mr. Woodall, do you want to take E? Branch members would like to invite the new chairman of Qualis Group to attend a meeting and provide an update on the Qualis organisation, how it supports the functions of EFDC's role and responsibility. And I do believe there's a new assignment to that, a new appointment, is that right, Mr. Woodall? Do you want to...
Yeah, there is a new chairman, and it says in the question that branch members would like to invite the new chairman. I did send a number of emails to try and get him here. Unfortunately, he was not available tonight, but I have an assurance that he will be attending the next meeting on the 1st of February. So he's not here tonight, but he will be here at the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr Woodall. Councillor Helen Kane, for the last time, I would imagine.
Yes, on this subject, we have scrutiny meetings here, and they're always open to everyone. So and we have qualies quite often, and we had only 2 days ago a very, very interesting conversation, with qualies representatives. Please either watch the webcast or come here and watch it. It is important because you hear quite a lot of discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very helpful information. Members, if there are no other questions, Councillor Morgan, Richard Morgan.
Just to say, I mean, what a poor turnout it is tonight. Only 7 of the 24 parish councils, only 2 of the county councils here. How can we encourage people to come to these meetings to learn about what's happening?
I don't have the answer to that, but...
Has anybody got the answer?
I don't know if somebody wants to try answering that, but Councillor Wixley, is it on this point?
Yeah, I wouldn't ask a question on anything else. I think there's an explanation for tonight that unfortunately it was a clash because there's the AGM of the EALC at Colchester, and that didn't finish till about 3:30. I had a bit of a rush to get here myself, but I made it because I've been to both. I think that's one reason. It was just an unfortunate clash tonight. If it hadn't been a clash, I think we might have got more here. But I agree that the more the merrier, and if we could get all 24 here, it would be quite an achievement and be good.
Thank you very much. Members? Okay, Councillor Helen Kane, for the very last time, I will not be coming to you after this.
Easy, just to say the same here. The reason I'm here representing Waltham Abbey is because our town clerk is actually in terms. So there are things that are clash, and unfortunately that happens quite often.
Okay, perhaps we need to speak with ELK and make sure that they'll have their meeting on the same day as the local liaison committee. But not saying that anyway. Thank you very much, members, for attending tonight. It is a shorter meeting than normal, I know. It's at 8:02 p.m. Thank you very much. Have a nice drive safe home.